are all being pathetic. If anybody could give me a solution of how to defeat Hamas without going into Rafah, I think that's brilliant. And without any civilian casualties in a war that Israel didn't start, then, yeah, say it. That's what no one ever says, is how do you defeat Hamas? Israel cannot have Hamas on its border. That's just the reality. Nothing is going to change that. Israel has to get back its citizens, by the way, including 5 US citizens as well, that Biden seems to have chucked under the bus and never mentions. So what can they do? They are in a position, if, you know, Hamas could surrender, of course, they could give up the hostages, they could surrender, and then save casualties, save people's lives. But, of course, Hamas doesn't care about that. Anyway, it's so annoying when people sort of give all of their sort of, oh, Israel has to cease fire, Israel can't go in. Well, say what they should do then. Just give us
I suppose if you're going to make the counterpoint very briefly, I suppose it would be, you're not going to knock out Hamas-type groups anyway. You know, a bit like some people think Ukraine's unwinnable. If it's unwinnable, it's just more...
No, it's very winnable.
Casualties.
No, but that's the thing, is it's very winnable. Israel has already defeated a huge amount of Hamas members. It's not like they don't have the technological ability to defeat Hamas. It's just they want to kill or want to ensure that the least amount of civilians die as they do so. So, I mean, the idea that it's a genocide that's going on when they've deliberately held back to prevent exactly that is ridiculous. And as you say, 100,000 people are leaving. Israel is letting the IDF are letting them go, letting the civilians out, encouraging them to get out so they can get in and destroy Hamas. So, anyway, but there's a big story here, though, by the way, which is sort of hidden in the corner. Starmer pledges to rip up Rwanda scheme. So this is Starmer with a policy, which is interesting. His idea is to defer the 75 million or so and invest that in the police to kind of investigate these people traffickers and whatnot. You know, it's a plan. Maybe it'll work. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just vaguely depressing the amount of energy, money and time has been spent on Rwanda, and as soon as he gets in, it'll be like in the bin. That's politics, isn't it? That's the system we have. What about the Daily Mail then, Josh?
Yeah, worst whooping cough outbreak in 40 years. 5 babies dead as experts blame fall in vaccination rates. That could be, obviously, pre-COVID. We had the old MMR jabs and all that for back then. But the sad... I mean, God, it's just... you can't even imagine the stress and the horror of what's happened here. But 3 of the 5 grieving mothers had the jabs during the pregnancy, specifically to protect their children. So the fact that this...
Yeah. Well, that's not going to give people much faith in the jab, then, is it?
Well, they're saying that it's got this particular type, yes, is less effective. It's a less effective version. And it's just stories like this are just too horrible to contemplate, I think.
And there's a slightly more light-hearted story. Sorry, Stormy Daniels, if I'd made up my story about sex with Trump, I'd have written it a lot better, but I don't think that actually stands up in court as a legal defence. But anyway, what about the Daily Star then, Kristen?
The Daily Star. We want to see big pictures of Uranus. So some space boffins want to launch an up-close and personal mission to Uranus so they can photograph what's lurking there. Lol. Yes, it's a new mission.
Why is there a picture? Is that Rishi Sunak? It's a picture of Rishi Sunak with a rocket on it. Is that what he's going to be doing after the election?
Yeah, he has a new role as a space boffin. He is quite smart, apparently, though maybe not competent enough to be actually in space. I'm not sure. I love the Star. If anything ever did happen to GBNews, I hope I could go and write for the Star. You just take... it's just a bingo game. You just take boffins, seagulls, a few other terms. You just smash them up.
I know, but I feel like at the same time they've messed up this front page because in the left corner is Elvis was in my bacon. I feel like that's a much more important, relevant story than the big pictures of Uranus. I feel like that should have been the header.
Well, it's the Star. It could be back on the front page within weeks, Josh. You never know.
I hope
you might get to do it yet.
Yes, all right. Well, Elvis was in my bacon or Uranus. I'm not sure which is the most pressing story. You decide at home. But that is the front page is dealt with. And coming up, Nadhim Zahawi steps down. Natalie Elphicke starts her apology tour. And Eurovision gets nasty. Also, we're hosting a night with Headliners Live. And you can join us all for an evening of comedy with Andrew Doyle, Leo Kerr, Simon Evans, and even Josh.
What?
I was invited, but I wasn't available. So for more information, scan the QR code on screen or visit gbnews.com. There it is. You've got a fancy QR code, which I forgot was coming up.
I'll bring the chair.
Yeah.
I've tweeted it as well.
Would have made more sense to do my intro after, but there you go. Anyway, that's the QR code, so we'll see you in a few minutes.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Many of the people that you had invited to come and speak were people who've been elected in their own countries. I'm thinking of people like Suella Braverman. I'm thinking of Nigel Farage, who has been a member of the European Parliament, of course, had an enormous impact on British politics. And Viktor Orban, who has been elected and re-elected. Many people may not care for the Prime Minister of Hungary, but he's certainly an elected person.
And in addition, we had about 15 to 16 members of the European Parliament who were also elected, and they really live in Brussels. And you would imagine that Brussels, being the head of the capital of the EU, would allow elected members of its own parliament to have an opportunity to voice their views. So I think what was very interesting about this is that the mayors overplayed their hands, so that because they overplayed their hands, all public opinion became entirely on our side. It was so evident, so transparent, that this was really an attempt to use the police instead of arguments to react to our conference, that it was a real direct threat, and it is still a direct threat to the freedom of assembly and to free speech.
So how do you think it leaves it? Is it more likely or less likely that there'll be future bans?
I think this is a trial run. What I'm really worried about is that if the future of democracy and free speech depends on the ruling of one judge, and you have to remember that 3 other judges ruled against us, then democracy is in big trouble. What worries me absolutely is that a strong body of political opinion amongst established politicians believes that it is okay to cancel conferences and to crush the people's opinions and prevent the freedom of assembly. Democracy actually depends on these foundational values.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall? Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Gloria Di Piero. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon, still here with Josh Howie and Cressida Wetton. Haven't bothered writing an extra joke for the second bit, but so let's just crack on and do the Metro. Yeah, it's fine. I'm comfortable with it. Let's do the Metro. And this next story sounds like the most horrific thing we've ever covered, pretty much ever. But then if you actually read it, it's even worse, Josh.
It sure is. Man jailed for 22 years for making testicle salad, then eating it. That is not a euphemism. That is a real testicle salad. This is a guy called he's nicknamed the Eunuch Maker. I wonder why that is. And he performed illegal castrations, live-streamed them on the dark web, and was jailed for 22 years.
Illegal. That's the problem. That's what bothered me about this story, the illegality of the castration.
Yes.
Well, a good old legal one, but not an illegal.
No, because some of these people actually gave him permission. That's the crazy thing.
That's a huge part of the story.
Yeah,
this is a very...
So this is everyone eating their cornflakes.
I know, this is, yeah, and he also, this is a separate thing, but the NHS was forced to amputate his leg because he froze it, and then he had his own willy and a nipple cover. Anyway, but the difference is that when he did it, and got paid, is the difference between people who work for the NHS chopping off healthy bits of children when they think they've got gender dysmorphia. So that's the difference there. It's a big deal. Obviously, we're talking mental health issues here.
I don't think the NHS are streaming it either.
I don't know, I'm not streaming, but doctors are getting paid to do terrible things to children.
22 years. This does send a clear message, doesn't it, to anyone else who's thinking of
doing this. Yeah, no copycat
It
crime.
doesn't feel appropriate. He was married before this, amazingly. That was very upsetting.
It started after he got married. But
no, it started after his relationship broke down.
OK.
So it sounds like the defence or the explanation is it's to do with control. But I just thought it was stunning that somebody who was into doing this had found a partner. I think that's amazing.
That is shocking.
Does that give you hope?
That's horrible. That's like how Ted Bundy had a girlfriend. It's like, oh, he's nice when you get to know him and all this. Yeah, no, madness. Anyway, apologies for anyone trying to get sleep or eating their breakfast. Just blanket apologies.
Just to everybody.
To the nation, yeah. All right, let's move on.
But not to Matthew Sweet, who's trying to clip this.
Definitely not. Let's do The Guardian. And Nadhim Zahawi has announced he'll be standing down as an MP at the next election. I think I speak for all of us when I say, yeah, cool, whatever. Cressida.
Nadhim Zahawi to stand down as MP at next general election. So he's the latest in a long line of Conservative MPs to pack it in. He's the 64th.
Lucky 64.
Is it?
No.
Oh, well, he'll find out, won't he? So this is the guy who was briefly the Chancellor under Boris, and then he eventually got sacked because he didn't declare an HMRC investigation, which he had to pay £5 million for.
As you do.
Which is funny, isn't it? I work with money and I'm being investigated.
But Angela Rayner, you know, that second house situation.
Well, there's a lot going on, isn't there, with everyone? Anyway, so he's done this letter, and that's really the significant part of this for us. He's done this letter that's sort of arguably a bit over the top.
Yeah.
It's like a sort of poetry. It's got some Shakespeare in it. I know you've got some specific quotes.
Yeah, I think we've got it up. We've got a picture of it, I think.
Okay.
Here we go.
Is there a haiku?
He begins, with the exception of convincing my wife to marry me, it's been the greatest honour of my life to represent the people of Stratford-on-Avon. And later on, he gets quite into it. He goes, every morning as I shave my head in the mirror, I have to pinch myself. And later he even talks about my most famous constituent, he means Shakespeare, once wrote, go to your bosom, knock there and ask your heart what it doth know. So, yeah, he got a bit carried away and he says, parting is such sweet sorrow. It's like, all right, Nadhim, you were Chancellor for 2 months. Just rein it in a little bit. Do you know what I mean? But, you know, I'm sure he's a nice guy. It's nice to see a different type of letter, but it was just a bit like, just say, you know, I'm off, the Tories are toast. See you later, right?
Yeah, I'll never get my pension, whatever. He also says here, helping his constituents in the time of need remains one of the most meaningful things I've ever done. So it means he did it once.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's not true.
Poor old Nadhim. I mean, it's just... I mean, the reason I don't really care... I mean, I'm sure he's a great guy, as I say, but the Tories are just... Of course they're all leaving. I mean, it just now or in a few months after you lose the election, doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah, sinking ship.
Yeah, get in there first. Just quit before...
Get in there 64th.
Yeah. All right, done that one. Let's do the Mail. And thousands of protesters are calling for the Israeli Eurovision singer to be excluded from the competition. It must be a pretty bad song, Josh. Imagine how bad it is.
Yeah, Israeli Eurovision singer Eden Golan is ordered to stay in a hotel room by a security team. Thousands of pro-Palestine protesters, including Kefir-wearing Greta Thunberg, gather in Malmo calling for her to be excluded. This 20-year-old Jewish woman, and people saying, leave Greta alone, as she's there protesting. She's 21, so I think we could say whatever we want to about Greta when she's bullying a 20-year-old.
Oh, yeah,
if you see, like, the thousands of people outside this poor young woman's hotel room, and she was escorted to the venue, like, with, like, 100 police cars and an armoured vehicle. I mean, this is... like, just nasty stuff. This is meant... The whole Eurovision, the whole point of it is to be a sort of celebration of what makes us the same, and having a bunch of barely concealed racists shouting out because this young Jewish woman is singing, representing the only Jewish country in the world, is ridiculous. It's disgusting. It makes me very upset.
Yeah, it does seem very silly, and all this kind of excluding people, it kind of reminds me of the Russian tennis players when they were banned. But then again, Eurovision's always been very political. What do you think, Cressida?
I think her attitude towards this, the singer, is just extraordinary, that she's carrying on. I mean, I would be in no mood for performing at this point when there's thousands of people...
She got through, by the way. She got through the quarterfinals. She's going to be in the final.
Right.
I just found out, like, just before
OK, well, that's extraordinary.
Yeah.
She initially went in with a song called October Rain and then claimed it didn't have any... it wasn't a political song. I mean, is she very naive? That's bizarre.
Well, Slash doing a guitar solo. I mean, that's quite close to November Rain. I'm no scholar, but
now
November
it's
being...
Hurricane.
Right.
Now they've changed it.
Right, OK.
Yeah.
But it's OK, November Rain, but it's October Rain. OK, I've got it now.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. I heard this the other day, this just for a bit of colour on this story, that Eurovision, apparently the reason we don't want it and have put in rubbish songs is because it's so expensive.
Yes.
And it's been bankrupting Ireland.
That was a plot of Father Ted.
Was it?
Yeah, I mean, they kept on winning. Ireland kept on winning, and so that's why they allowed Father Ted to sing in the competition. So they would deliberately lose because they didn't want to host it.
I forgot that one. Apologies to Graham Linehan, and apologies to the nation and Ireland. Friend of the show. Yeah, all right. Well, I thought that was interesting. Turns out it wasn't. It was just an old sitcom plot. Oh, well, let's do the Times then. And Natalie Elphicke has joined Labour, and she's already fitting in by condemning men, Cressida.
Natalie Elphicke apologises for comments defending husband. So she's defected from the Tories on Wednesday, gone to Labour, and she's apologised for defending her former husband after he was convicted of sexually assaulting 2 women. So the story is saying that she's doing this because as she goes into Labour, there's quite a few people who are not that thrilled about her being there. And so she's kind of digging this old story up. It was really an attempt to sort of make peace with some people in the party. And she's previously, when this was all happening, she defended her husband. And, I mean, who knows what she... presumably she thought she was doing the right thing at the time. I mean, it's incredibly distressing, isn't it? If somebody suddenly finds out that their partner is actually a sex... what's an appropriate term? is making unwanted advances to women. That's very distressing.
Well, it's actually he was convicted of sexually assaulting 2 women.
Yes, but what I'm saying is at the beginning of that ordeal, she didn't necessarily know
your husband,
that,
But she defended him after he'd been convicted.
Well,
that's
what I'm getting
I'm not
around
saying,
to is that people are in denial about things, aren't they? And that, you know, who knows? But anyway, she's now sort of coming out and saying she shouldn't have done that. She's apologising for defending him. But really, the whole tone of it is, what a strange person to be going to Labour after some of the things she said about them. And she's described Keir as being too soft. She thinks he wants open borders. And then just at the last minute, she's kind of jumped ship and gone where the jobs are still available.
Yeah. But I feel like she'll have to constantly apologise for things and it'll just never be a good fit.
She's standing down on the next the election. So this is really so she can get some sort of advisory role in housing, which is like her speciality, supposedly. Not that Tories have really built many houses over the last 13 years. So
the advice will be build some.
Yeah. By the way, now you're in government, maybe build some houses. But there is, as you were saying, Chris, there is this dilemma because it's another way to kind of stick it to the Tories, yet at the same time, is this the kind of person that they necessarily want on board? And being now a Labour, like, does she align with what traditional Labour values, for example? So this is the balance that they have to decide. But I think the crux of it is because she's is she Dover, I think? Somewhere she's a coastal town, so that I think allows Keir Starmer to play into this whole immigration element. And that's why they've sort of gone through with it.
Yeah, but it is... I mean, Labour, trying to be all things to all people is dangerous. They're alienating the left of the party because they're mental. But, you know, they're alienating some of the left over Israel-Palestine. Far left. But they're alienating... They might alienate people by taking in random Tories. So it was the second one they've taken in, as far as I know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the other guy was the doctor the other week. But it's... I do wonder if they can go too far with this. Or the Penny Mordaunt made a sort of quip in Parliament today. Did you see that? She said she's not going to defect. She's too left-wing for Labour.
That's funny.
The problem is she actually probably is. I mean, she's so left, she's probably agreed. So I'm not sure it kind of works if you really are just a woke lefty.
That's witty.
It was witty, but sort of too accurate for me. But anyway, that's my little beef. But let's do the Telegraph then. And I hate to shock anyone watching at home, but it turns out banks do pretty much whatever they want, Josh.
Yeah, banks are law unto themselves as mortgages rise and saving rates drop. This is this month's announcement that the rates are going to stay the same. This is the 6th month in a row. There was this expectation that mortgage rates would start dropping at some point because saving rates have been dropping. And there is a discrepancy between the two. Banks will go, oh, no, it's different for mortgages. It's different, you know, if someone's making money somewhere. But as we've just seen on one of the front pages, the expectation is that next month will be maybe the first drop, which could then lead to more and more drops. But it is strange that we are having mortgage rates actually going up in some cases as things have stayed flat. So
absolutely.
Yeah, and you're trying to buy, aren't you?
I'm trying to buy dry land, so for once...
silly bit of money sitting in my bank, not making as much as it could, and trying to find a mortgage at the same time. So I'm their perfect customer, really, aren't I? I need to get online and sort all that out. Yeah.
But they never pass on the savings to the customer. That's what I've noticed. But you think they will be passed on soon? I don't really understand it.
I'm not sure, because apparently relying on the bank rate to determine how much they would pay savers did not necessarily reflect the full range of retail banking dynamics. And that...
This is the good part. This is why it's good to get comics on the show, this type of show, I think, okay, because it just shows Like what just normal idiots are like.
Yeah, yeah.
We're just three idiots.
Yeah, I don't understand any of this, and I'm too tired to read it properly.
And
I'm like, I've got my flat
But I think
now.
people can relate to that.
Yeah,
I think people are like, yeah, good, look, there are some other idiots out there who don't know what's going on with their bank accounts and their mortgage.
We need someone on the show who knows about economics, but that's like all the other shows.
Yeah, exactly. that's what I'm trying to say. That's exactly what differentiates us.
That's our USP. We don't understand the economy.
We don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. I just want to start crying.
Yeah. We should bring on someone just for little, like, 2-minute snippets about the economy, but they also don't know. All right, that is it for part 2. But coming up, malfunctioning brain implants, which I think just happened to some of us there, AI porn, and Anglo-Saxons are banned. See you in a minute.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather updates from the Met Office here on GB News. Another cracking day tomorrow, if you like it fine, warm and sunny. If anything, a little bit warmer than today with light winds thanks to this chunky area of high pressure. Hasn't been fine everywhere today. There has been these weather fronts just trickling across northern Scotland, still bringing some outbreaks of rain, particularly for Caithness, Sutherland and spreading across the Northern Isles. A bit of patchy rain at times across Aberdeenshire too. But for most, it's dry and fine out there. Generally clear skies. A bit of mist and low cloud returning to parts of eastern England, and a few fog patches are possible in the south, where temperatures in the countryside could dip down to 3 or 4 Celsius. Most towns and cities there starting tomorrow at 10 or 11 Celsius. And most will start tomorrow with plenty of sunshine, and for many it'll just stay that way. We will see again some misty conditions around a few coasts, particularly perhaps East Anglia, east coast of Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, and a bit more cloud moving into the Western Isles through the day. But any early rain across Shetland should clear. For most, it's fine, sunny spells and warmer than today, 21 to 23, maybe 24 or even 25 in 1 or 2 locations. Another fine day to come on Saturday. Again, the possibility of some mist and low cloud affecting eastern coast. A small chance of 1 or 2 isolated but heavy showers over northern England and southern Scotland. But for many, fine again. And if anything, a little warmer, 24, 25 degrees, a little cooler around some coasts. Goodbye.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio and online.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. So let's get straight into it with the Times and a rare, heartwarming story for Headliners, Cressida.
That's right. Toddler born deaf can hear after world-first gene therapy. Oh, how good's that? So when Opal Sandy was 4 days old, doctors told her parents that she was completely deaf. 18 months later, she's had this new fantastic treatment, and she can now... It says here, delights in hearing cutlery slammed on a table, all the sounds of a tinkling piano. I bet that was fun for the parents for the first 20 minutes, wasn't it? And now she's going around banging pots and pans and making noise. But anyway, that's great. So this is... she was born deaf with a condition called auditory neuropathy, where the nerve impulses that transport sound to the brain are disrupted, so it just didn't work. And now this trial, led by Cambridge University, is using the latest gene therapy to deliver a working copy of the gene to cells in the ear, replacing the faulty ones. It's magic, it's amazing, it's breakthrough.
Yeah. She's called Opal Sandy, although I call her Starburst Sandy. That's a joke from about 10, 15 years ago.
It's good, but I feel like there is that... I feel a bit sorry that she's now going to know that her name is Opal Sandy.
Oh, I see what you mean. Because
You know
she has
what I
to
mean?
hear her own name.
I'm just saying that's the one downside to
Josh
this
has always
thing.
hated the deaf. He's done jokes about him in his set for years. Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, it's true. But
I
this
love
is
that was your one issue. Pro Israel hates the deaf, like those two.
No, the joke is say what you like about the deaf.
Yeah, about deaf people, wasn't it? But it's good. It's a good.
And then that's it. Just stop. That's it. That's it.
That's
You
it.
stop.
And it's a good joke.
But
very cruel. And in the modern world, you'd be cancelled.
This is my secret: is that videos of deaf kids getting cochlear implants, is that what they call it? Or getting glasses, like babies getting glasses, and hearing or seeing their parents for the first time makes me cry. Like, I just watch those videos over and over again, and every time they can see their parent for the first time and they smile, or they hear their parents, and they start, and the parents start crying, I start crying. I just watch them over and over again. I'm obsessed with them.
That's nice to know you have feelings.
I do have that, but it's the only thing that emotes me. The only thing.
Not even dogs coming home.
Not even my own children emote.
Hates children.
No children.
He only likes children getting
in these
sight
videos
or hearing. That's it.
This is it.
Doesn't even like children.
It makes me feel like I'm Jesus when I watch the video.
How dare you? I know you're insulting Christians.
But also, why do they use this? It's the start, just the beginning of gene therapy. This is so exciting. There are two issues here for me. Number one is I feel like, yes, making deaf babies hear is good, but maybe they might want to have started with hair.
Yeah.
OK, that's all I'm just saying. I'm throwing that one out there.
Where's our funding?
Yeah, OK. And number two is...
channeled all this money into big ear.
On a slightly more serious note, there are people who are deaf who are quite militant about their deafness, and they're very proud of their deafness, and they're very... they won't...
Dead.
They won't get, the implants. They want to stay deaf. They just want to do sign language. And they're very clear about it. And they see people getting the implants as a sort of betrayal of...
Really?
It's true, yeah.
That's quite
I've
odd.
never heard that before. I have heard...
Don't defend them! Don't say heard.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, Josh.
OK, good. We got through that one without saying anything politically incorrect. Let's do the Times. And a third of young men are refusing to leave home, in some cases until they're 34 years old. I'm so glad I don't have 5 children. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, young men refuse to fly the nest, with a third still living at home. I totally love all my kids to stay at home as long as possible. I lived at my grandmother's until I was 35.
Well, did you?
Yeah, but that was the only way we managed to buy our flat, was because we saved a deposit. It took 4.5 years.
So your wife lived there with you?
With her, yeah. And the
That's an amazing woman who's like, hey, by the way, I'll be living at my grandmother's till 35. She's like, yeah, cool.
Well, we had that was the only way to afford a flat. And so we lived there. We saved that money for 4.5 years we were there.
You could have moved to Blackpool or something.
I could have.
He means in the best part
and then
of London,
we moved out when my youngest, who's now 14, when he was 1. So there was this weird crossover year when the baby was 1, and then my grandma was also going through some tough times, and it was like taking care of 2 babies at the same time a little bit. But thank you, Grandma. She's dead now. But that's what allowed us to get into the onto the
Isn't it
ladder.
funny that that's an anomalous story in our culture? Most of the world know that that's how humanity works. We help each other in a family.
Yes,
and in
Italians and so on.
This world, we kind of go, oh my God, did you? With your family? Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah, we are weird and atomised about that. But is it so weird? Which is weirder? I mean, young men staying at home, 28% of them, used to be 26% in 2013, which is also quite high. Is this bad or good?
Well, it's the reason that women should want good things for men. Because it's... Well, no, it's not good, is it? It tells me...
Would it freak you out if someone was like, hey, I'm still living with my parents when they're 30?
It would depend on the context. I don't know. But what was I saying? I don't know whether this is because the cost of living is so outrageous, or whether it's because men are sitting in their bedrooms playing computer games and not going out, making a plan, making a life. I don't know. It could be a bit of both.
It's a bad time for young men. They're told they're toxic. Yeah. Women are all crazy feminists.
So there's a lot of women who are staying at home as well. So there's just not enough houses.
But that goes against my rhetoric and agenda, thoh.
Oh, I see. So let's ignore it. Yeah.
Well, no, it's also cost of living as well. Yeah, it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. I don't know. You're right. It seems weird to us, but to some people, it's just be completely normal. So.
Well, in the world that obviously, we're all sitting here being employed right now, but I know some very precariously employed people in comedy, and they're not going to be living in their own places, probably. I've got a friend that makes a joke that when he dies and ends up in a grave, that'll be the first shot he has at property.
Yeah.
Wow, that's big. But you know what? Some people will be saying this is actually lucky because if you're from, like, I'm from a little village in the north, I couldn't really live my parents and have a job other than farming. So it's like, you know, sometimes you're quite lucky to be able to live with your parents because it means you live somewhere near a major city or something. I don't know. Giving it another spin there. I'm being terribly reasonable tonight. Let's do the Times. And 3 words you'd never want to hear together are malfunctioning brain and implant, Cressida.
Elon Musk's Neuralink reveals malfunction in first human brain implant. Yes, that does sound true. You wouldn't want to hear that, but he sort of spins it as if it's fine. So Elon Musk's brain chip startup Neuralink says part of implant is in its first human patient has malfunctioned. I think I've got one in my head.
No, I've been fitted.
You've been fitted?
I've got one, look.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing. You're one of the first human subjects, if you are indeed human.
I can also play Tetris. Right now I'm playing Tetris.
Nice.
It's terrifying. There was a progress update released 100 days after the surgery on Wednesday, and Neuralink said that some of the Link's device's threads had pulled away from the patient's brain a few weeks after surgery, which had rendered the device less effective. They don't know exactly how many, but in response, they said they've tweaked its algorithm and improved the techniques for translating brain signals into cursor movements.
Okay.
So it sounds like they're treating this as a great learning opportunity.
Yeah. Josh, one question. If you do that blinking thing enough, can you get a job on the BBC?
Do I want a BBC?
Of course you wouldn't. This is the best channel, but sorry, guys.
They're switching over to the BBC.
Funny joke.
No.
Come back.
Little joke. Anyway, anything on this, Josh, apart from your...
no, but now the guy... he's been... is he paraplegic? Is what he for 8 years, and now he can play Mario Kart and Slay the Spire. Those are 2 brilliant video games. So things are looking up.
Yeah, more good news. All right, well, let's do The Guardian then on technology. And OpenAI is exploring whether users should be able to create artificial intelligence pornography. May I be the first to say no, definitely not. Please make it stop, Josh. It's the end of the world. It's the end of productivity, at least.
Do you remember when you were showing me all those Taylor Swift things that you were...
The fake nudes.
Yeah, but you didn't. But I just read the article and I found out that they're real.
Right.
I mean that they were fake, and you told me they were real. You said like, look, I was out with Taylor Swift this weekend.
Josh, in the break, I was sending you Taylor Swift pictures. Yeah, this all happened.
OpenAI considers allowing users to create AI-generated pornography. This is because, of course, any technological developments will usually go down the porn route eventually, i.e., you know, you had YouTube and then it became Pornhub or whatever it's called.
I didn't know that. Is that what that is? One is the other?
Well...
No idea.
So
I'm not sure they're the same owner. He's saying the same concept.
The same concept.
Which is looking at videos.
Right. I think we should refer to the previous story about young men living at home, which is more evidence for Nick's point that this should all be stopped immediately. I mean, this isn't good for human beings, is it? Sit home and make your own.
They're saying that the kind of content could include erotica, all right, extreme gore, not sure, slurs and unsolicited profanity. I have a little question there. How do you ever get the unsolicited profanity if it must be solicited at that point? Who is asking for unsolicited...
No, they make it for themselves.
Huh?
Isn't it the case that you make this stuff at home, like...
But someone's soliciting it. You're soliciting it for yourself. You see what I mean? How can...
Can you solicit from yourself?
I don't know, but how can unsolicited profanity ever... who's sharing it there for?
This is so great.
What?
Just the future, the 2 philosophical giants here. but they've also... because they're saying they're trying to use the present AI. It's got safeguards on it. So it said they tried it out and they did an experiment. It said, write me a steamy story about 2 people having sex on a train. And it wouldn't do it. It said, I can't create explicit adult content. But what it should have said is, watch Risky Business.
Yes, but don't worry. The Labour Party is considering a ban on nudification tools. Anything on immigration, lads? No, we're considering a ban. Not even a ban, but we might one day
They don't want to flip-flop too early on this.
Lame. All right, let's quickly do the Telegraph. And a Cambridge University journal has removed the term Anglo-Saxon. I can't help but feel somewhat targeted, Cressida.
Cambridge Journal pandering to mad Americans by ditching Anglo-Saxon from title. So apparently, Anglo-Saxon means different things to different people. So the definition here is that it refers to a cultural group that emerged and flourished between the fall of the Roman Empire and the Norman conquest, when Germanic peoples, Angles, Saxons and Jutes arrived and forged new kingdoms in what would later become a united England. But apparently white supremacists also think that it's for them. Which is ridiculous, because in the beginning, the whole point is it's not referring to a homogenous group. But anyway...
But the problem with racists is They're not necessarily that well educated, so they might not know the real meaning of Anglo-Saxon.
No, they're not. And so this very important journal that's been going for a long time, they're thinking of changing its name.
They've done it. Change it.
Right. Which is, upsetting a lot.
There it is. It's the early medieval England now instead of Anglo-Saxon. Absolutely ridiculous. It's an attack on us, just good old English people. And as Dominic Sandbrook says, they are pandering to a handful of mad Americans.
Yeah, just because white nationalist Americans use it, why did we then have to alter our...
Yeah, it's colonialism.
Yeah, it's colonialism by white racist Americans.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, smash that. That is it for part 3, but coming up in the final section, Blackface, obese monkeys and female psychopaths. See you in a minute.
Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
Today is a good day for the King, a good day for Britain. I'm sure you'll be hoping that those Not My King morons decide to give it a rest for a little while, because he is still dealing with an illness, isn't he?
He's still dealing with an illness, and he appears to be dealing extremely well. I think he comes from the fact that he's extremely strong and fit. I think I understand that will help his treatment enormously. And I think, as your professor was saying, it's the fatigue that can be a brutal thing when you're trying to lead a normal life with cancer. But I think that it's going to really help him psychologically to get out there, and people are going to be giving him enormous support. I mean, I know, as you say, there's an anti-monarchy brigade, but there's been an anti-monarchy brigade since there's been a monarchy. So that is not such a big deal. It has always been there. I feel that Charles is going to get a lot of support from the sort of joyousness of people seeing him and, wishing him well. And I think that that's going to be immensely important to him. It's a very busy time, but I think a boost for William and Kate. William's out and about. We don't know about Kate, but I feel that the King will definitely... It's a very busy time coming up with the anniversary of D-Day in Normandy, which I know he will be desperate to be a part of. Then there's the big royal season, the Trooping the Colour, the Garter ceremony, Royal Ascot. And then he is hosting the Emperor and Empress of Japan at the end of June. So it's an absolutely packed month for someone that is presumably going to get very tired.
Yes, indeed. I mean, if he gets through all of that, I think that will be absolutely massive, won't it?
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's Live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's Live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the final section of Headliners. Let's get into it with The Telegraph and a story about the thin line between skincare and race hate, Josh.
Indeed. Students accused of blackface win $1 million payout after arguing it was acne mask. There's no arguing it was acne mask. It was an obvious acne mask. This is when they were 14. There was a photo, but a few years later it came out. This is in 2017.
Have we got the picture right
there
here?
It goes. So everyone was like, look at these racists. It's like, it's an acne mask.
Yeah. Or they're in a Vietnam movie.
It's green.
It's one or the other.
Or they're doing an impression of The Mask or something.
It's classic projection, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're seeing racism in that, maybe the racism's coming from you. Like, I'm not thinking about race. I'm thinking about face masks.
That is not blackface. That is green face.
Yeah.
And when it came out, it was like at some posh school in California. and it was all around the killing of George Floyd, and then everyone was like, look at this photo, look at these racists, and they expelled them, or they said, you better leave. So these kids have won like $500,000
Go, or
each.
you'll be sent.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no such thing as cancel culture, is there?
And the school are trying to be like, well, and then the school put out this pathetic statement after the findings saying, well, they didn't find us that we breached our handbook or this and that, but they did find about it. It's like, look, you threw your students under a bus.
Yeah, but they've been cleared now, which is amazing. But as you say, cancel culture, the apotheosis of cancel culture, absolutely disgusting. No good comes from this. And the fact that the photo was 2017, then after George Floyd's death, they go, I'll tell you what, we'll just retroactively cancel these people. Is absolutely
when they were 14 years old and they got acne.
Disgusting. And all the while thinking, oh, we're good people for doing this. Yeah. We're really good people.
And if you were that good, wouldn't you be concerned if you thought you were churning out students who are racist? I think I'd be very...
Well, I just feel sorry for all the kids with acne. I had really bad acne. And now
you
it's
couldn't
like,
risk it now. You just have to have acne.
I just have to just be out here, just pus just flowing all over the place. Sorry about the breakfast. Go with the testicle thing from earlier.
Another of many horrible images tonight. Maybe we should move on and do the Daily Star. And the world's fattest monkey has died, but no one knows what caused it, Cressida.
World's fattest monkey, Godzilla, dies despite fat camp stint to cure junk food addiction.
Oh, it was that, wasn't it?
Isn't that awful?
Yeah,
How sad. So this monkey was living in Bangkok. He went to hospital in Bangkok. He was in Thailand, and people were feeding him chocolates and sweet drinks and all the things that make Lewis Schaefer very, very angry. And he was fat, and he had thyroid disease, diabetes and Cushing's syndrome, overproduction of the stress hormone cortisol. I know exactly how he feels. And he's gone.
Yeah, he was basically like Lewis Schaefer in the old days, before he cured it all by eating exclusively meat. He had all his diabetes.
Although Lewis would love to be chained up with an endless stream of people coming and talking to him. That's probably his ideal life.
Throwing him bits. But yeah, we've got Planet of the Apes is out tonight, the new Planet of the Apes film. It would be good if they had like a big fat ape in it. Like maybe who finds, in the future, they find all this like junk food that's been left, like Twinkies that have been left over from humanity, and then they all get like...
That sounds like one of those really bad plot lines written by the new woke writing
New
style.
AI.
Guys, it eats junk food? That sounds terrible.
Yeah, and then Lewis Schaefer comes along and gets them all into shape.
OK.
And he's also like in the future, all the humans can't speak anymore, and they're all stupid. And I'm spitballing. I feel
like the Netflix executive blank at what you're talking about.
I don't know about this stupid new seat.
So, I suppose, yeah, I mean, it is hard, to be fair, to get anything out of World's Fattest Monkey, but you had a valiant effort. It's called Godzilla. That's all I've got. It's nothing. Should we move on and do This is a Nan story, guys. Let's move on and do the Times. And people in Japan are making gold from human remains. Can you ever take recycling too far, Josh?
Well, this is a really interesting story. Culturally, anthropologically, ethnographically, Japanese strike gold in human remains. So in the west of Japan, they have... part of their culture is everybody's cremated in Japan, basically. And in the west of Japan, families go along to the cremation afterwards and pick out with chopsticks, like, the big bits of bone. This is...
I know, but when you first read it...
Take that away with them. But that leaves a whole load of other stuff, including metals and gold teeth and silver and palladium and whatnot. And that they're kind of just donating to the town. And so these towns are kind of getting, like, millions of dollars left over in these metals because people just want the juicy stuff. They want the juicy big bones.
Crazy, death tax.
Yeah, but isn't that interesting? That's what they do in Japan, that they all get cremated and then you go with your chopstick, with your parent, with whoever, and then you pick out the bits and you go, I'll have that femur. I'm just saying, this is so... I watched Shogun the other day on Disney, and now I'm just learning so much about Japan.
A bit grim, especially the fact that 95% of the respondents to a poll had no objection to it, and 70% actively supported it. To me, it seems a bit of a moral decline thing, sort of just treating humans as kind of, something to just be recycled. I don't know, what do you think?
But they've got this ageing population problem, haven't they? That's what this is about.
Yeah, it's the birth rates again.
Yeah, birth rates.
They're full of gold.
Yeah. They're like, instead of having some actual children, we'll turn dead people into gold. I mean...
And it means if you're buying gold in Japan, you don't know what's in it. You know, the idea of a wedding band that came out of somebody's tooth is very strange, isn't it?
Yeah, OK. Weird story. Let's do one more in the Mail. And how to tell if a woman is a psychopath. Is it that she's breathing, Cressida? I'm so sorry. I even didn't like that joke as I wrote it. Someone else wrote that for
whatever
me.
it was going to be at least that good. Revealed the key sign that indicates
classic psychopath.
A woman might be a psychopath. And it is very rare because there are 6 male psychopaths to every 1 female.
That's not what it says here.
Well, that's what the feminist culture says.
What it says.
No, it says here it's actually 1 to 2 at the end of the article. Psychopaths don't read to the end, but...
He's like...
But it says that they keep their head very still. So I just want to say... Sorry.
Go on. You go on. I don't want to interrupt. They found that the biggest psychopaths kept their head very still, just like men. And that's underlined, which is interesting, isn't it? We need to move our heads around to show that we're not psychopaths.
Well, this is what it says at the end of the article, where it says that if you get to the end, it says that what women say is women are better at hiding than the psychos. So it's actually 1 to 2 is what they're saying here.
I was just trying to get you so angry, Cressida, there that you would seem like a psycho on TV while saying you weren't. But I'm sorry about that. But
if I was or wasn't, I don't think either of you would know. I don't think...
No, because women are Machiavellian and you'd hide it.
No, because men don't pay attention. Anyway,
nice.
So
all right,
out.
good ending to the show. We're all best mates, really. OK, the show's pretty much over. Josh is still moving his head. But let's have another quick look at Friday's front pages. So, the Daily Mail goes with worst whooping cough outbreak in 40 years. The Telegraph has Hunt urges banks not to rush rate cuts. The Guardian, fear and trepidation as 100,000 people flee Rafah bombardment. The Mirror has whooping cough warning. The Metro, 5 babies die as cough bug spikes. And finally, the Daily Star, we want to see big pictures of Uranus. That's what it says in the Star. Don't blame me. That's all we have time for. Thanks to Josh and Cressida. Headliners is back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer. Unfortunately, that's what it says in the autocue. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, then stay tuned for breakfast. But for now, it's good night or good morning and God bless.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest weather updates from the Met Office here on GB News. Another cracking day tomorrow if you like it fine, warm and sunny. If anything, a little bit warmer than today with light winds thanks to this chunky area of high pressure. Hasn't been fine everywhere today. There has been these weather fronts just trickling across northern Scotland, still bringing some outbreaks of rain, particularly for Caithness, Sutherland and spreading across the Northern Isles. A bit of patchy rain at times across Aberdeenshire too. But for most, it's dry and fine out there. Generally clear skies. A bit of mist and low cloud returning to parts of eastern England, and a few fog patches are possible in the south, where temperatures in the countryside could dip down to 3 or 4 Celsius. Most towns and cities there starting tomorrow at 10 or 11 Celsius. And most will start tomorrow with plenty of sunshine, and for many it'll just stay that way. We will see again some misty conditions around a few coasts, particularly perhaps East Anglia, east coast of Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, and a bit more cloud moving into the Western Isles through the day. But any early rain across Shetland should clear. For most, it's fine, sunny spells and warmer than today, 21 to 23, maybe 24 or even 25 in 1 or 2 locations. Another fine day to come on Saturday. Again, the possibility of some mist and low cloud affecting eastern coast. A small chance of 1 or 2 isolated but heavy showers over northern England and southern Scotland. But for many, fine again. And if anything, a little warmer, 24, 25 degrees, a little cooler around some coasts. Goodbye.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the biggest cash prize we've given away to date. An incredible £20,000 that you could use however you like. And because it's totally tax-free, every single penny will be in your bank account to do whatever you like with. £20,000 in tax-free cash really could be yours this summer. But you've got to be in it to win it. For another chance to win £20,000 in tax-free cash, text PRIZE to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB05, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 31st of May. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
GB News is the home of free speech. We were created to champion it, and we deliver it day in, day out.
Free speech allows us all to explore and debate openly the issues most important to us, our families, and of course, the British people.
Having challenging conversations to enlighten each other.
Which is why we hear all sides of the argument.
We are the People's Channel.
We will always stand by the freedom to express yourself.
On TV, radio, and online.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes. Thank you for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Prime Minister Sunak calls a meeting in Downing Street to discuss growing anti-Semitism on university campuses. I'll be asking tonight, should the protests that we're seeing be closed down and stopped, as they have been in many American universities? British Gas say they want to mandatorily put in smart meters into our homes. Over my dead body, say I. And in South Africa, there's a general election coming up in a couple of weeks' time. There's a new political party with a leader, Gayton McKenzie, who is being called the Black African Trump. He joins us live from Cape Town. Hold on to your hats for that one. But before the programme, let's get the news with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good evening to you. I'm Aaron Armstrong. The Chancellor has cautioned the Bank of England against cutting interest rates too quickly. The bank's decided to hold borrowing costs at the same level, 5.25%, for a sixth time. But Governor Andrew Bailey says he's optimistic inflation will continue to fall and has suggested an interest rate cut could come as soon as next month. Jeremy Hunt urged the bank not to take risks with inflation.
I welcome the fact the Bank of England's obviously thought about this very hard. They take this decision independently, and I would much rather that they waited until they're absolutely sure inflation is on a downward trajectory and rushed into a decision that they had to reverse at a later stage. What we want is sustainably low interest rates, and I think what's encouraging is that the Bank of England governor, for the first time, has expressed real optimism that we're on that path.
Pro-Palestinian protesters have been gathering in the Swedish city of Malmö ahead of the second Eurovision semi-final. Hundreds of demonstrators have been waving Palestinian flags in the city's historic market square in opposition to Israel's participation in the song contest. Crowds could be heard booing last night during Israel's performance. Organisers have also been forced to apologise after Sweden's Eric Saad wore a Palestinian scarf, a breach of the contest's ban on political symbols. Labour's new MP, Natalie Elphicke, apologised for comments she made about sexual assault. The MP for Dover announced her defection from the Tories to Labour moments before PMQs yesterday, but it's ignited a backlash amongst some Labour MPs after comments Ms Elphicke made in defence of her former partner, who was convicted of assaulting two women. However, the Labour chair, Annalise Dodds, says she's already been held to account.
Well, those were very, very serious issues. The sexual assault that was rightly prosecuted, and of course there was a parliamentary process that followed that, including a parliamentary process that applied to Natalie Elphicke. So it's absolutely right that there was accountability there. It's an incredibly important matter. Every workplace, including Parliament, has got to be free of sexual harassment.
And the Home Office has removed figures on French efforts to stop small boat launches from its website. The U-turn comes a little more than a week after it first started publishing the data in an effort to show cooperation between French and UK authorities. Well, the most recent figures had shown French authorities stopped more than 1,000 migrants from launching boats since last week. And for the latest, you can sign up to our alerts, scan the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now it's back to Nigel.
Good evening. In response to the protests at universities and growing anti-Semitism, today the Prime Minister called a roundtable meeting in Downing Street. He wants to stamp out anti-Semitism. He wants our universities to be bastions of tolerance. Well, you're a bit late, old son, on that one, I think. I've been saying for some years that I felt that our universities in this country had become madrasas of Marxism. Well, I think we can throw racism into the pot now as well. I am pretty unimpressed by all of them. Last night, this is hard to believe actually, the National Union of Students voted to expel the Union of Jewish Students. I mean, quite unbelievable that it happened. Even more unbelievable how little coverage that story has had today across the breadth of mainstream media. And then last night at the Cambridge Union, a good friend of mine, Peter Thiel, he's an American billionaire entrepreneur. He and Elon Musk together launched PayPal just over 20 years ago. Peter Thiel was speaking at an Oxford Union debate. This is how he was greeted during his speech.
Since October 7th, 14,000 children in Palestine have been murdered, and Palantir is complicit in that. Your actions are complicit in the genocide of thousands of people. Rather than platforming people like you, this university should be calling on the government to an immediate two-way embargo with Israel, and yet your technology is ensuring that hospitals are being bombed. You are complicit in genocide, and this university is platforming people who are complicit in genocide.
And if that wasn't bad enough, when Peter Thiel tried to leave, he was literally stopped from leaving the university in his car, and you can see these pictures, people blocking the road, waving their Palestinian flags, and a distinguished foreign guest who'd accepted an invitation, unpaid of course, to go and speak at the Cambridge Union will, I've no doubt, never, ever go there again. Do you know, for the last 5 years, Cambridge University have asked me to go and speak at the Union every single year. I've said no every time. Having seen what happened there last night, I'm right not to go. Who in their right minds would ever now go to have a free speech, open debate at the Cambridge Union? Which brings into question what the point of universities actually is. In America, many of these protests have been stopped. And it's fine for people to protest, but not to put up permanent camps, not to start using language that is, frankly, openly, easily visible as anti-Semitism. I do believe in free speech. I do believe in the right to protest, but I think these protests should be stopped, as they have been at many American universities. What say you? Should the protests be stopped? Farage at gbnews.com. Well, joining me down the line is James Price, Director of Government Engagement at the Adam Smith Institute and a former Special Advisor at the Department of Education. James, if we can't have free speech, if distinguished, and Peter Thiel is a very distinguished man, no question about that, if they can't go to a university without demands for them to be deplatformed, if it's not about free thinking and expanding the mind of young people, what is the point of university?
It's a very, very good point. And unfortunately, it's not even a timely one. This is a debate that's been had for a long, long time. Of course, it used to be the left wing who were very pro-free speech. It was one of the things they were proud of, because all the institutions used to be controlled by stuffy old people like you and I who'd say, no, you can't say that, you can't say that. And that's where things like the Oxford Union and that I was president of, and the Cambridge Union as well, which are meant to be separate and independent of the universities, came up, so that people could have a free place where they could debate these kinds of things. Because you never know, you might be wrong, you might learn something in these places, but that's not the point of universities anymore. And you used the phrase madrasa. I think you're spot on. I mentioned that I was president of the Oxford Union. Weirdly, I did it about 10 years after I was a student, and a prank that kind of went too far during lockdown when all the rules got changed. So I went back as the oldest ever president and saw quite how far the universities had fallen in 10 years. And like you, I got called every ist and every phobe going. And then you kind of go, okay, why do you think that? Have you read this person's book? Have you heard what they've got to say? And you just get these sort of blank stares. And this is the problem. They don't know what they're talking about.
And it's happened very quickly. I remember going to the Oxford Union 20, 25 years ago. I went many times, and I was debating issues that were minority issues, leaving the EU, controlling our borders, real minority issues at the time. And whilst I'd always lose the vote, I was actually listened to with a degree of respect. That wouldn't happen now, would it?
No, and you saw it in that video there, that Peter Thiel is giving an answer. There's always